morning. Shh. Callie, no barking. Stop barking. Good morning. Okay, and we're back again for the episode of parenting and caregiving. Uh, First line of caregivers are parents, as we care for and protect our children from gestation to birth, from birth to 18 years plus. What are some of the challenges you can face as a parent? Fear. Parents often will think uh, of the worst case scenario when it comes to their children or the care of their children. Uh, Kids don't always listen and can drive you to the edge. That's true. Gotta be strong. Don't let them push you over. They can't win. Doubt, second guessing everything and worrying you made the wrong uh, choices. Control, how parents worry about some of the challenges we have is control, trying to get the children to listen and do as we ask them to do and what we expect them to do. Parents have high expectations of their children. How well, how well do we accept the children that we have versus the children of what we think we should have? Um, and the greatest challenge that many parents face today is spending time with their children. Uh, Seven challenges in life we all need to deal with, that we all deal with at some point in time in our life, is emotions. It's easy to act out in anger, sadness, and or frustration. So we have to really monitor our emotions and where it's stemming from. And if we have to know when to interact with our children, loved ones, and when not to. Sometimes you need a timeout yourself. Um, Toxic people, friends, partner, boss, they're all challenges, and they should be handled as such. Um, Unfairness in life. Well, we know that life isn't always fair. So those are things that we have to deal with. Also, some of the challenges we deal with in life, your job, positive thinking, meeting people, and dealing with ourselves. At what age do you think children become your greatest challenge? You can write your comments in the chat box if you like. That would let me know. For me, I think the age that the children became the greatest challenge were the teen years for me. Um, I would say that's where there's peer pressure, there's all types of things they have by their own identity image that they're presenting to the world. So they're struggling with a lot. So that requires a lot of patience sometimes. And sometimes it requires like legal situations and whatnot, juvenile justice and things of that nature, sometimes along those teenage years. So prayerfully, we get through them, and thank God I've gotten through them. And you will too, if that's something you're facing. What are some of the greatest challenges of being a caregiver? I think the greatest challenge of being a caregiver is the most part that I learned was self care. That was the greatest challenge for me. All right, I have here. What are some of the challenges that family caregivers face? Okay, being a parent, being a caregiver, and possibly somewhere along the line in your lifetime, you may possibly be responsible for caring for an aging parent, a parent with disease or chronic illness, or a family member. Just it doesn't have to be a parent. It could be a sister, a brother, a cousin, a nephew, niece, your own child. Because we talked about how parents we we all would like to have a what we call quote unquote normal child, whatever normal is, because I'm still trying to define that. However, children are born with disabilities, and other things can stem as they grow and mature. Depends upon the journey in which they're on. But back to what my topic is. What are some of the challenges that family caregivers face? We face time management, as there's less time for yourself. There's emotional and physical stress. There's a lack of privacy. There's financial strain. There is sleep deprivation. That's funny. I can't even say it, and I suffer from it a lot. But it's okay. You learn the maneuver. You gotta learn the maneuver. Don't give up. Just keep going, because you can make it through this. Being afraid to ask for help. Who else is a candidate of that? And I think that comes along the line, not even being a caregiver. I think that just comes along as being the individual that we are. Some people ask for help openly and willingly, and others will suffer in silence or try to do the best they can and make it through with what they have. Um, being afraid to ask for help. There's depression and isolation. When you are a caregiver, you are primarily focused on whomever or you're caring for at that time and whatever their needs are, and you become engulfed in their life. So it's kind of like your life is now their life, and their life is now your life, and the intertwining of the two can become complicated. Uh, let's see. Common caregiver problems. Um, and this is why I compare caregiving and parenting together, because as a parent, you are a caregiver. You're responsible for caring for your children. And some of these things can apply to you as well. Um, some may not. If you agree, you agree. If you disagree, that's fine too. But let's start a dialogue. Um, Common caregiver problems are mental health concerns, physical health concerns, fatigue, uh, tiredness, forgetfulness, uh, functional and cognitive impairment. And that happens when you are a little sleep deprived. You're doing things, but you're not resting properly. And depending upon the loved one's diagnosis or prognosis that you're caring for, could determine um, your how much you're doing and how less sleep you're getting, which is going to affect how you operate on a daily basis. You may not comprehend what someone is saying to you when they're speaking to you. You may hear something and it's different. You don't understand it that way, or you are very short and become very argumentative with everyone because you're just tired. You're just tired and exhausted from caring for someone. And not really putting the focus on yourself. These are some of the things that can happen. There are secondary strains. There's, I would say, the secondary strains would be if you're caring for a loved one, your child, your children. I would say secondary strains could be having to report to work, worried about missing days from work because you have to be somewhere or doing something with the loved one to care for them. Uh, Financial stressors, not being able to pay your bills because you're not making it to work, so therefore your income is probably going to be different. Making care decisions, which is not always easy. Um, Depends on what level and what state your loved one is in. If they're a child, caregiving decisions are basically based coming from the parent and the support team that is working with that parent to help them navigate through the child's care or the loved one's care. So care if the loved one is unable to speak for themselves, um, or unable to communicate in some way what their needs are, then that care decision becomes solely the caregiver's job and responsibility. Um, and that's hard. That's hard and it's challenging because everybody on a team may not agree with the decision that you have to make, and you may go through some things through with family, friends, and things of that nature. Sometimes it can get really ugly, but you just pray yourself through it. It doesn't pay to try to attack them back, especially when they are speaking from an emotional base point. And most family members, when they're not involved in direct care of a loved one, they're coming from an emotional base. They're looking at the loved one as they once saw them, not as for where they are presently and what they're capable and able to do and what is going to be the best interest for the uh, loved one that you're caring for. Uh, Resources and eligibility for services. There's challenges that you can face in identifying what are the resources. First, you have to be able to identify the need of the loved one, and whatever that need is, then you need to go and research and look for the resources. And resources are there. However, navigating through the resources may not be as easy as you think. It might require a little bit more of you. You may become short and frustrated with those that are part of the resources because they have a job that they have to do, and then you have a job that you have to do. And sometimes the two minds don't always come together. But I always say, be your own rescue, stand up, take charge, do whatever needs to be done, whether it's filling out paperwork for interstate care resources that transfer your loved one from one state to another state. Uh, do whatever you need to do to get that process done. Call and talk to whoever you need to talk to. It's going to be so well worth it. And getting the services. It's sort of like you gotta stand up and fight for your right and your loved one's right as well as navigating through resources and services. And again, we brought up there. We're bringing up family challenges. Family challenges is a big one, and is one that can sometimes in caring for a loved one can kind of sever family ties, family relationships, or I don't want to say sever. Well, sometimes it severs them. Sometimes it just makes them very, very challenging and difficult. And the caregiver will 9 times out of 10 avoid the person that is creating the challenge or bringing the negative energy into the situation of the caregiver, because when you're caring for your loved one, you're with, be it your child, your mother, your brother, your sister, whoever it is, you don't need that negative energy to get on you, because you already have a lot to deal with, and you have to keep your mind straight and stay focused, because you have to not only focus on that person's care but your own care as well. And you have to pick your battles. Every fight's not your fight, and people are going to feel what they want to feel, especially when they're not directly involved. Advocacy for care. And like I said, you have to stand up for something. You have to stand up and fight for your right, fight for your family members' rights, and getting them the proper services that they need, and making sure that they're being taken care of in a fashion that's going to benefit them and give them the best quality of life that you can give them at that time, at whatever phase they're in. Um, the most difficult part of being a caregiver is self-care, because being a caregiver is so hard. Some professionals think of caregivers as hidden patients, and I think in some ways we really are. Let's see, I got into healthcare early. Thank you to my adoptive grandmother, who chose to love me. She didn't have to love me, but she chose to love me. And because she chose to love me, she guided me and directed me in the right way. And I'm so grateful for her. I can never repay her. I don't care how many times I call her and tell her I love her, I thank her, and I appreciate her. I still feel like I can't thank her enough for what she's done for my life. But I became a caregiver early in my uh, life. I became a caregiver in 1985. I got certified through Woodrow Wilson High Schools. Um, I think it was co-op programs, and I don't think that the schools have that now. I think they really should bring that back, because it's beneficial. Not only do you get your education, but you also learn a trade at the same time to earn money while you're going to school. And that's a big, children like to earn money. I enjoyed that during that time. But having that experience and being in the field of caring for others, you get to see a lot. You get to meet a lot of different people from all walks of life, very diverse backgrounds, races, different races, nationalities. So you become very diverse and you begin to learn about others' cultures and how they live and what is the norm for them, because what your norm is not may not be the person that you're caring for's norm. So it's very important that you pay attention and listen to your loved one or the person that you're caring for, because they know what they want and they know what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And the last thing you want to do is frustrate them and cause them more stress overload and depression and anxiety and other issues also come as being a caregiver. So I wanted to come today just to begin our caregiver series and go over some of the challenges. And if you are a caregiver, if you're a parent, you're definitely a caregiver because you're responsible for that little one's precious life from birth all the way, well, my grandma said, till you go to the grave. And even then, you might not even get no rest because they still might come and talk to you there. So, you're a parent for life, physically and spiritually. You'll be a parent forever and ever. So, what are you a parent, caregiver, or are you a family caregiver? Are you caring for a loved one? I'll share a little bit of my story with you all. Like I said, I started caring for people early in my high school years, lateral, like junior year high school, junior year, senior year. Senior year, I was full fledged. Junior year, I was just tapping, getting my toes back. So I had some experience with caring with loved ones. I've had the pleasure of caring, helping my family care for both my parents, uh, their mothers. So, and that was an honor to do so. However, it didn't happen without challenges because as a family we meet together, we try to develop a plan as to what we're going to do for our loved one and whose responsibility it is to do what and to be where at what time. However, life on life terms, people tend to not show up when they're due to come, which requires you to call another family member to come and fill in that person's spot. But also be aware of the strengths and weaknesses of your family members in caring the loved ones. Everyone's not capable of changing someone's diaper or helping someone take a shower or brush their teeth or doing their hair. So you got to know the strengths and weaknesses of each family member and ask them, do you feel comfortable doing XYZ? So that way you know who to plug in for what responsibilities. Um, what else do I want to say? Uh, the family meeting, making sure everyone's task is delegated, making sure everyone has a list of phone numbers to contact each other, and keeping a notebook. Keeping a notebook to write down, excuse me, keeping a notebook to write down daily notes for each other as well as for the medical team that's treating your loved one. The better you can track what's going on with your loved one, the easier it is when you get to the medical professionals um, and them assisting you and helping you in whatever may arise with your loved one. It's a notebook, making a list, telephone numbers, your notebook with notes for family and healthcare professionals. Uh, Also, how do you work through the challenges when family members don't agree with you? when they don't agree with the decisions that you have to make. And sometimes caring for a loved one, you have to make hard decisions. You have to make decisions that you may not even be comfortable with yourself. Uh, Prime example for me, after caring for my grandparents and helping them lay to rest with my families, I then in turn had to care for my parents. And we also have to look at the fact that in caring for our parents, we have to see them as the individuals that they are. And the needs that your mother may have may not be the needs that your father may have. And that was my case scenario. They were aging parents, but different illnesses, different diagnosis, different treatment. Um, so navigating and caring for both of them at the same time takes a lot of skill, and I leaned a lot on my support group to help me. And when there was no support, uh, I gave it up to God, and I just did what I needed to do. Um, with that being said, mother's needs and father's needs can be different. However, whatever the needs are, if the needs should become greater than what you're able to provide for that loved one, to give them, to help them maintain a quality of life, to keep them safe and protected from themselves or others, um, because some illnesses changes and alters the person, your loved one. They may not be that sweet, loving, kind person that they used to be. They might become mean, or if they were mean already, they might become sweet and loving. You never know because illnesses affects people differently. And one of the hardest decisions I had to make was the decision to place one of my parents in a facility. And we did all that we could to be there around the clock. There was morning, afternoon, and evening shifts. There's weekend shifts. Did everybody participate? Those that participated, I'm grateful, forever grateful, and they know that. Those that didn't, I'm not mad. I'm not upset because I realized that everyone has strengths and everyone has weaknesses, and everyone is not really capable of doing certain things. And then it depends on how they're feeling and where they're at emotionally with handling the illness of a loved one. The unique thing that I noticed during my caregiving time of my parents was that I was dealing with the care of both my parents, keeping everything together, trying to do the best that I can with them. And in the mix of that, I it was brought. I had to. I also had to take the time to take on the care of a sibling because there was changes going on within her as well, and it was very difficult in the beginning because I was very frustrated and I didn't understand. I did not understand how I'm now responsible for two parents, and now I have to be responsible for you and your children and my children and my grandchildren. So I was very, very overwhelmed. But I thank God through prayer, family, support, friends, helping out, and the healthcare providers. I navigated through. Life on life terms, you don't know what you're going to get. So you have to be prepared for whatever. Are you going to be accepting to it all the time? Maybe not at first, because I wasn't at first. I was kind of like, really? But, you say a prayer, you ask God to give you strength for what you need strength for, and He gives it to you. Um, so if you are a caregiver, put it in the bottom there. I would really like to know. And if you need some support or need someone to talk to, feel free to reach out to, there's plenty of organizations and groups that can help and support you. I will comment one. I'll put it in the chat here for anyone that. So if you join me later, that you can see that link. That link is for a peer-to-peer conversations for people just like you and I that are parents, caregivers, and we're just trying to navigate through life and live the best life that we can. Um, I don't want to really ramble on. I wanted to come so that we can kind of get an idea. And I wanted to compare parenting and caregiving together because it kind of does go together. Because once you become a parent, you don't stop caring for your children. You will care for them even through every phase and every stage of their life. Maybe not so much as they get older, but it also depends on the child because if you have a disabled child or a child with special needs, you may be part of that child's caregiving process for quite some time. And that's strenuous in itself, but just know that you are not alone. You're not the first to experience it. Others have gone through or others have gone through and or going through what you're going through. And it's good to reach out because I know as a caregiver, sometimes we just we don't reach out. We won't say, "Oh, I need help," because we're fear. The fear is no one's going to help us, or if they're going to come to help us, they're going to come assess the situation and leave us with a list of more things to do and still not help us. So you have to get over that because um, as you navigate through it, people do come out. You do get help. You do. It may not be the ones that you expect, but you will get help. And if you are a caregiver, don't give up. Take the time to take care of yourself because that's very important. I'm going to share this story with you before I go. And I have one thing to read to you, also a life changing quote before I go. Uh, for my, from my own experience, uh, given that I am a caregiver, I'm kind of like, once I get to know you and we bonded and we've kind of have a connection with each other. I'm noticing the older I get, the more overprotective I'm becoming. So my family is growing widely. My family is not just my blood relatives, but also people that I have met along the way that are not my blood, but they're cool enough people that I think they are pretty awesome and worthwhile caring about and or advocating for. So I do it. Whenever I can and whenever needed. Sometimes I'm not needed, and sometimes I do it just anyway. But uh, with that being said, it's interesting because when you give to others like that, it's kind of unsettling when they give it back to you because you're so used to giving, you're not used to receiving. So when I got the notice from a lovely coworker who she's she looks out for the team. She never forgets anyone's birthday, holiday, anniversary, whatever special occasion she's on it, and she's got us all doing something to celebrate that person. Um, and she's kind of like the glue to our team because she kind of holds us together, and she's a great delegator. However, she's also kind of spicy and bossy, but I love her. I love her. She knows I love her. But she told me this week, she told me to take some time to take care of myself and enjoy my family because I work very hard and I do a lot and they all appreciate it, but they want me to take care of myself because without me, um, if I'm not around, I'm not there for them to come to or to be around or just enjoy each other's company. And I that touched my heart immensely. That someone on the outside can stop and look and say, hey, you're doing a great job, but I need you to go sit down for a minute. I need you to go over here and do something else. I need you to go over here and just chill out. And as a caregiver, it's hard sometimes because you're always thinking of what's the next thing to do. I got this to do, I got that to do, I got this to do, I got this to do. There's no way I can take a break. But just like you would put your loved one on a respite or a break or sit them somewhere where they can have a little break and you can have a little break, you also too need to take a respite. So I am going to still continue on doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to pace myself and I am going to take her kind, loving advice and take care of me at the same time, which is very hard for me sometimes. But I'm going to do my best. But I have to start it, just like anything else. It's something new, you got to start it. You got to start taking care of yourself. It's very important. So we'll come back again and we'll go a little bit more in depth about caregiving, and maybe we'll look at some of the diagnoses and things that we as parents and caregivers may face or come across with our loved ones and family. So, in closing, I like to end with this quote from Arthur Ashe that says, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. I love you. I thank you for joining me, and I believe in you. So wherever you are in your life right now, wherever you are, whether you're trying to start something new, are you getting over a challenge? Uh, are you going through the storm? Just know that the storm's not going to last always. Stay in prayer. It helps a lot. You'll hear me say that a lot because it helped me a lot. I believe in you. I know that you can do this. And you're going to be successful at whatever it is that you do. One day at a time, one love. See you guys later. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Have a great day.